It's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to All Lacrosse Live. I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. And with me tonight, I've got Shawn Slaght over at Moose Jaw. Shawn, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks, Gary.
And, quizzically, Muffler Mike isn't around, eh?
Yeah.
Mike, we wish you all the best. Hoping you're feeling better. Mike's still under the weather tonight, so we're wishing him a speedy recovery that he'll be back with us next week. But we got a special guest tonight. We got Craig Wende coming on to the show. Really looking forward to talking with him. We go back a little ways, so it's great to see him again. He's had some trials and tribulations as well as some great things going on. So looking forward to that. But before we get rolling, just a reminder to everybody that all of our shows are streamed live across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, also Instagram Live. Remember to hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Always share. Please follow along with things across the Streampunk Entertainment Network. Such as boxing shows, Fly Like an Eagle, Streampunk Cinema, Streampunk Combat, all kinds of things to your heart's desire. You can, if you missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the sports at YouTube at Streampunk Sports, Streampunk Lacrosse, Streampunk Cinema, as well as Streampunk Combat. And of course, all across all the time, in which you can find retro games, interviews, library of our shows, and a whole lot more. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting streampunkentertainment.com with great articles from our huge staff of contributors. Also, remember, our show is brought to you by 60. More than just a number, 60 is Canada's newest and most exciting sports uniform and teamwear brand, delivering top quality uniforms and teamwear that reflect the spirit and identity of each team. Their commitment to innovation and excellence sets them apart, ensuring that every customer experiences the perfect style and functionality of their order. Unleash your greatness with 60. You can get to them by using the QR code that's in the center of your screen, or go to Instagram at sweet_60. You can email them at info.sweet60@gmail.com, or go directly to their website at www.sweet60.ca/60. Well, without further ado, and goaltenders in lacrosse are a special breed. They face blistering shots, heavy traffic, and constant pressure being the last line of defense. Few embody the resilience better than Craig Wende, veteran netminder whose journey through lacrosse ranks has been marked by perseverance, leadership, and passion for the game. Let's bring Craig on. Craig, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's great to have you back on the show with us. Lots has happened since. But for everybody, let's do what we always do and just explain to us how you got into lacrosse to start with.
So, very young age, probably about 5 years old. My dad wanted to get myself into some different types of sports as a kid. We did the whole hockey avenue aspect of things, and then during sports sign up, my dad saw lacrosse, and at the time lacrosse was free and they gave you a stick. So my dad's like, free, that's for me, and sent me right in there to get going into it. So started out player. I did 2 years of playing player, and during that second year kind of got into the avenue of, everybody got their turn to take an opportunity to go in net. And during a tournament in Oakville, I still remember the time, I decided to jump in net, put the pads on, and I'm like, you know what? This is a lot less running. I think I'm going to stay right where I am. So I ended up finishing the rest of the year and haven't left the net since. So
talk to me about a few of the influences you had growing up and who would have been, who you looked up to try and get into the sport.
I think, to be honest, my dad was a big influence for me. To this day, my dad's probably my best goalie coach. For somebody that's never played the game of lacrosse, had no idea what lacrosse was. He learned it along the way as much as I did. But, you grow up watching the Toronto Rock when I was a kid, like Bob Watson, watching Bob Watson as successful as he was. And then, a guy like Mike Poulin being from the area, you watch him and you're like, yeah, I want to be like guys like that and go that route eventually. But like when I first started the game, I couldn't even imagine of where the game was going to take me. I was just one of those kids that enjoyed playing it and then just kept doing it.
Right. What kept you in the game?
I think for me, hockey is like a different type of culture. I think, it's very intense. When you're a kid and in that atmosphere is very intense growing up. And I feel like lacrosse, it's always been like a brotherhood. It's always been very inclusive. You get along. It seems like you just get along a lot better with your teammates and stuff like that. And I was always one to be respectful to opponents and people I played against growing up. I've always been that type of person and got along with people in that avenue. And I feel like for me, it was just more of an enjoyable sport, a lot more fun for me. And it's a fast game. Hockey, you're on skates, fine. It is what it is. But like, I feel like lacrosse, there's so much more skill involved with running, the transition, the speed of it, the intensity, physicality. I just enjoyed lacrosse a lot more than hockey.
Right. Now talk to us a little bit about developing yourself as a goalie, because, between the hand-eye coordination, all the other things that come on, more so than just, I think there's so much more skill involved in being a goalie as opposed to being a runner on the floor.
No, I was a hockey goalie, so I was kind of lucky. I kind of got shots faced in different avenues at all times. And then growing up, I was actually a field lacrosse goalie up until the last couple of years. I stopped playing field lacrosse goalie. I was playing in men's league. But like getting shots year round, summer, winter, obviously helps you go a lot further. But, my dad and I watched a lot of lacrosse. Like I feel like at this position, nobody has all the answers of how to make this position successful. And I think the biggest skill you can have developing your game is learning and watching others, seeing what you can take from somebody else's game and transitioning it to yours to make you a better player. I think that's basically it. You can get shots away from the rink, but it's kind of hard when you don't have the right person shooting on you. But yeah, just being a student in the game was always a big thing for me.
Right. Now, moving up each stage, and you had success in each of these stages, what do you think was the biggest adjustment that you had to make going through all these stages?
Keeping shooters honest, because they're pretty good when you move up the next level. I think for me is you make sure you have the right mentality that you're a good player, but like you really humble yourself when you get to the next level. You keep on trying to improve yourself and keep progressing. You want to be the best, and to be the best, you kind of have to take what you're given and learn it from things and develop a little bit more each and every time you hit the floor. But like I said before, just being a student of the game. Nobody knows everything. You just keep learning along the way.
Right. Well, looking at your career when you're in junior, you started out in Kitchener, obviously, being from there, and moved up to Burlington. Let's talk about, moving up and all of a sudden you're doing junior. Now you're facing real-time shooters. So
I tell you right now, when I was in minor lacrosse, watching Kitchener junior A team, I would have never thought to be in that level. So to get to that level, watching the KW junior A team and then playing with them was a surreal experience. Like you said, being a hometown kid, that's always nice to get to play for your junior team where you're from. It's a lot. Like, I was 17 heading into that first season for the KW junior A team. And, you're playing with guys that are 21 and they're men and you're still a little boy. And it's hard. It's hard. But no, and then you see, like, now you see some of the players you played with now being so successful as they are in the NLL, it's a good experience. It's, like I said, it's fast. You're playing with a lot of older people, but it's fun. It was a lot. It was a good experience. That's for sure.
Right. Now here's where the perseverance and here's where the leadership and the hard work comes in. You're going into the draft year. You're expected to be a later round draft and it doesn't happen. And this goes out to a lot of the people who are, expecting it doesn't happen. More times than not, this is the case. And then everybody thinks, well, you hang it up. No, you work harder. You want to plan for the Oakville Titans. You want to plan for the Oakville Rock as a backup. You want to plan for the German team. You want to plan for anybody who needed a goalie here and there and just about everywhere. Talk about how the drive all of a sudden ignited in you because you became a really good goalie along the way.
Yeah, that draft year, I'll be honest, I went to the draft. I expected to hear my name called like anybody else. I left there disappointed. And I think what turned it for me, to be honest, when I left, I thought I was going to be done playing. I thought I would hang it up at first. I sat with my dad, I sat with my family. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to go to the next level, and that's what it is. And at that moment, I was accepting of that. But I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you know what? I'm not done here. I'm not done playing. And like you said, I bought in, played a lot of lacrosse, took a lot more time to develop than most. But I feel like in this position, you need that experience at the end of the day. You need that experience of getting those shots and going everywhere you possibly can. And you're only going to get better as a goalie when you face shots. Playing for the Titans, I give them a lot of credit. They gave me my opportunity to start getting games, and then to get the opportunity to play internationally. That was phenomenal. Like playing with Team Germany in the first Euros ever, and then going to the Worlds was incredible. And then doing another Euros with Germany, that like German lacrosse helped me get to the next level. Jesse Cracknell was my head coach in Team Germany, and I owe that man a lot because he definitely helped me get to the next level as well. Time with the Oakville Rock, you play with some guys that are established in the NLL, help you get to the next level. You get that little more of that mentality aspect of things. You see how they help themselves get better when you get to the rink and stuff like that. It was overall like it was a long road, but I'm definitely happy that all my hard work actually ended up paying off.
Right. Now you get an opportunity. You try out with Washington. Didn't go so well. Tried out with Toronto last day cut. That was heartbreaking. But you finally catch on due to the expansion with Rochester. Now comes the question I love asking. The first training camp, was it what you expected?
I would think so. Like that was after signing with Rochester and then getting an opportunity to go to camp, Dan Carey was very honest with me, basically saying, you have a real opportunity here. You have an opportunity to make yourself known and be a part of this organization. And, I went into that camp and I was like, it's mine. I came in the mentality when I first walked on the floor, like, going into camp with some renowned goalies that were already making a kind of a name for themselves in the NLL. I came in with this mentality, like, no, this is my spot. So the drive was definitely there going to Rochester Nighthawks camp, and thoroughly enjoyed that experience. And I remember showing up at camp, and I was nervous. I'll be the first to admit I was nervous because it's like, wow, okay. But no, I'm thoroughly grateful for them even giving me an opportunity like that.
Right. Now, the team, it was a growing year since it's an expansion team, but, there were a lot of really good things that came out of that. I watched that team grow. I watched you grow also as an NLLer during that season. And you were in as a backup, but you won the starting job about midway through that year, taking it away from Steve Fryer, who was struggling. And you made it your own.
Yeah, it like one thing about, so we had Rylan Hartley, we had Steve Fryer, and then myself on that team. And one thing about that goalie trio there is we were very supportive of one another. And that's kind of where I was always at. Like, regardless of whoever was going to be in that, we'd support one another in that. And when I got my opportunities, I felt the utmost support from them. And when they were in that and they got their support. But yeah, it's just a confidence thing. You get in the net, and of course, like I said, it's nerves. You're at that level, and it's the childhood dream to get to that level. But at the end of the day, you got to be confident in yourself and confident in your abilities. And I felt like I was really transitioning into being that confident goaltender in between the pipes.
Well, I would say that you finally had that point of looking at people and going, "See, I told you." All the people said, "No, here you are, starting in the NLL." I say that's a feather in your cap.
Yeah, I would say so, but yeah, I would say so, but no, I was.
You're too modest to say it, though. That's the thing.
A little bit, yeah, and that's who I am. At the end of the day, that's who I am. I'm a very modest person, but yeah, no, it was. I'm very fortunate to fulfill a childhood dream to get to that level.
Right. Now you get traded to Georgia, to where you actually got to start originally because you were on the practice squad first time around with them. Actually got into a game or two when Poulin got hurt. But now you get there and you're the guy. This is after Poulin's gone. This is wide open for you. And in you go.
Yeah. I loved being a teammate of Mike Poulin. I tell you right now, Mike Poulin to this day is a good friend of mine. If he's a text message away or a car drive away, because he lives that close. And actually, we just coached this past summer on our U11-2 team. So I have a very good relationship with Mike Poulin. So, and there's a good video of a game where I came in and relief for him, and he threw the game ball to me, and we celebrated. And no, Mike Poulin was a very good mentor during my time in Georgia to help me transition in that role, kind of starting in Georgia. And, I have the utmost respect for that organization from top to bottom, from John Arlotta to the coaching staff and even all the guys in that dressing room. They establish a really good culture, a winning culture in that avenue as well. But like all that personnel, it was such a tight change room in that with one another, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of that organization.
Right, and the one who actually came up after you is probably one of the best goalies we've seen in years, in Brett Dobson too. So you saw the beginnings of him.
Yeah, he's a pretty skilled in goalie, and he has a long journey in this league. I think that's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, we talked about distractions. There was a huge distraction while you were in Georgia, of course, and that was the birth prematurely of your daughter Avery, and of course her passing. But one thing I always talk about in this is the lacrosse community and how it comes together in times of sorrow, times of sadness, tragedy, and the community came together for you and your family at the time. It comes to Caroline Appoint. I hope I get the name right. And of course, she came up with the goals for Avery idea, which was just so heartwarming that the league all gravitated around it. Also, if you could, you want to talk a little bit about meeting her and her ambition for Children's Hospital to raise money.
Yeah, I could still remember the day where I was approached with what was going on. I was out to dinner, kind of mourning some stuff that was going on in my life, on top of with what happened to Avery with my parents and my family. And I ended up getting a text message from our media person in regards to a young girl wanting to do something special for myself, for Avery, and I got the video sent to me, and I got the message sent to me of what she wanted to do, and I'm getting choked up talking about it because it's a lot. And
Of course.
I showed the message to my parents while they're across the table with me where we're out to eat, and I just did everything I could to not break down in tears. It was thoroughly it made me speechless, honestly, truthfully. But looking back, it made me speechless. Like somebody was willing to do this avenue of doing something to memorize, like a memorial in my regards to my daughter was incredible. You know, she wanted to donate every goal she scored, donate so much of her allowance basically to Children's Hospital. I want to start this massive movement basically across North America. It was, and then basically when that information came about, it started blowing up crazy. I got people messaging me all over the place. We're going to support you and do this sort of stuff and all that. And I told our media people, I said, I want to meet her. I want to meet her. So when I got back to playing lacrosse after mourning there, I set up something for Caroline because I wanted her to experience what it was like to be a professional athlete. So that picture that you showed is she got to be an NLL player for the day. She came in to shoot around with me in the morning. She experienced all of that, and she even experienced getting a Starbucks coffee. Well, she didn't get a coffee. She got the whatever her dad allowed her from Starbucks. And then she got to experience all that running out in the tunnel with me, and got to experience being a pro for a day because I felt like that was like one of the things I could do to support her and what she was doing. And to this day, I have constant contact with her father, Patrick, who's an incredible individual. And they're still doing to this day stuff to raise money for Children's Hospital and do donations and stuff like that. And I think for me, what she started is given me an avenue to keep giving back to society. You know, every winter now, I donate children's toys to McMaster Children's Hospital around here where Avery passed away. I do that. We call it Gifts for Avery. I donate children's toys to McMaster Children's Hospital around here. And then this year, we wanted to do non-perishable food items. So we donated, I think it was like 150 meals we donated to KW Food Bank around the region in regards to Avery. So I think for me, even though Avery was here for such a short time, it really helped me give back to the community and keep her name memorialized in something different, which was, I continue to this day, I keep trying to do things like that for her.
Right. It's heartwarming. And let's say it's one thing I really love about the lacrosse community is how everybody comes together. We can hate each other for 60 minutes, but when something really is up, everybody comes together from all walks of life to come and support and help in any way that they can. And I don't know another sport. I don't know another industry that would do that than the lacrosse thing. The medicine game truly is that.
Absolutely. I couldn't even, the medicine game is the name of that is just, it cannot be more fitting than for lacrosse. It's incredible.
Absolutely. Now your time in Georgia comes up, and you go around, you get a tryout with Halifax, but predominantly the one thing that is always in the equation here is the Arena Lacrosse League. And I want to talk a bit about that, being a media guy for there, pumped for that. But I want to talk a bit about the importance of that league towards young players to become pros, but more importantly, to stay pros, because I think that league serves more than just playing games. I believe that league, with the coaching and with the camaraderie, and a lot of guys who are on practice squads or are coming down from careers, have a lot to offer these guys in teaching them how to become pros and staying pros.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there. This league in NHL terms is the AHL of the NLL, basically. So, what's amazing about this Arena Lacrosse League, you get to play NLL rules. So those guys that want to make it to that next level that weren't drafted or free agents or coming up to the draft, if you're still around, you get to play the opportunity to play NLL rules at an NLL speed to prep yourself for that day whenever you get the jump. And, you get to be 18 years old. When you're 18 years old, you get to come into this league and you get to compete. And like you said, you have guys that are on practice rosters that are getting their games in because they're not in the next level. So they're getting their games in. So you're around enough talent to make sure, like you said, better yourself, and you get that mentality to get yourself to the next NLL. I love what John St. John has done with this league, and I keep having these conversations with John that once I'm done playing, that I want to help promote this league and get this league keep going, because I feel like it's such an important thing to keep striving here.
Right. Now, we've come up with a couple of ideas. You mentioned AHL. There's almost enough teams in there, and I think that with a little bit of expansion, which should be happening in the West, that it can almost work that way. Instead of having guys that are just free agents going all over the place when a team needs it, is they could actually do the AHL, where teams can keep their draft picks, hone their coaching, and work their way up. Hence the way the NHL started out.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I think there's kinks that have to be kind of modified a little bit to make it a more flowing thing, but it is growing. Like that, the ALL is growing, and I like where we're heading. So that's for sure.
Right, and as long as the NLL doesn't expand, there's so many players that need to be up in the NLL that have to have somewhere to play. So, ALL for $10 for people, that's a steal to come watch almost NLL caliber playing.
Absolutely, cannot agree more.
Now, you played with Toronto for a bunch of years, and you got traded to Oswego, who was having a bit of trouble. We had talked I think a day after the trade. And you were excited to go over there, and then the freakiest of freaky things happen. And if you want to take a look, you can even find this on TikTok. Craig gets into an accident with some moron who's evading police. You can see this as an axe-wielding clown who's coming out of his car. This is ridiculous. Like, this is something out of the movies. And you happen to be there. Thank God you're driving a huge vehicle. Because if you're driving a hatchback, I don't know if we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, I got very fortunate. I was driving, like you said, a bigger vehicle. I can describe all the details to what happened. It was probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced. I'm on a normal Wednesday after I pick up my oldest son from school. I'm driving home. I'm literally probably a minute from my house. I'm driving through the middle of an intersection on a green light. No problem. I look over to my right and I see a massive pickup truck going through a red light, driving down the wrong side of the road. At the last possible second, I see him. I step on my brakes for the smallest amount of a split second. And to be honest, that probably saved him driving through my passenger door. As scary as that is, that is the best way I can describe it. And if I didn't step on brakes, he would drive through my passenger door. I probably wouldn't even be having this conversation with you guys. All my airbags in my car went off. I did a 180, and like I said, I did this all while I had my son in the back seat, sitting behind me. And then first instinct, obviously as a dad instinct, is I don't worry about myself. I'm making sure my son's okay in the backseat. Thank goodness he was responding. We were okay at that moment. As I'm getting out of the vehicle, I told him, I said, we were in the middle of the intersection. We have to get out of the vehicle. I end up trying to get him out of the vehicle. And that's when I hear police officers yelling at an individual, drawing a gun at an individual. At that moment, I'm like, oh my God, okay, we got to get out. We left the intersection. Like you said, whatever happened after, that's what it is, unfortunately. And then so later that evening, I got transported to the hospital with my son in a stretcher in an ambulance, diagnosed with whiplash. Thank goodness my son, very mild whiplash, but to be in a collar and look over and see him in a collar, it's the scariest thing you can experience. I can handle it. I'm an adult. I can figure it out. I'm a strong individual, but I never wish that on any kid and ever. And it was hard to go through that with him, especially behind me. But if he was sitting on the other side of the vehicle, he would have had airbags in his face. Luckily, he was sitting behind me.
Right. Let's talk about recovery. A lot of rehab, a lot of not just physical, but mental rehab.
Yeah, like you said, mental. I think mental is the big thing. I had a 9-year-old basically tell me he thought he was going to die. That's like they never want to experience as a parent ever. Like that is the scariest thing you can experience. But the mental aspect of what I went through, like a couple days later, I couldn't even sit in the car. I sat in the passenger seat. I'm going to doctor's appointment. I had my fiance drive me to doctor's appointments. I can't even sit in the passenger seat without freaking out, let alone drive near the intersection where it happened. It was terrifying. And then, physically, 3 days later, I could hardly walk, limping around everywhere. I had so much inflammation from my back into my leg that I could hardly walk from all the whiplash that I experienced. And rehab, I even to this day, I'm experiencing stuff. I've got doctor's appointments in regards to it. I'm still trying to recover it. I still have inflammation all the time. I have nerve damage. I have nerve damage in my left leg a little bit that I'm still experiencing, still trying to work through. MRI that I still have to get done in regards to it. It's just, it's ongoing. I have, like, from February 5th is when it's happened. I put the lacrosse gear on once, and that was just for my U11s, just to say I did it. And that was the first time I put on my equipment since.
Right.
But at this point, I'm trying to work to play to the ALL, and I'm doing everything I can. I've given myself goals. I've come a long way from where I have, but it was scary, and I'm trying to best to get through past it. And physio is a tough thing to keep doing over and over again to do it, because I've got so much going on still.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask if maybe the Rebeski tournament would be in the future, but I guess trying to get back to the AL.
I would love to do that tournament. I've told a lot of people that I want to do that tournament, but and one thing about it, I'm getting to the end of probably close to probably playing as you get older and you have a family, and I have kids at home now, and I just welcome another one into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love playing in front of my kids. That's one thing that a moment that, I've been the NLL, I've won an NLL game, I've had an NLL start, but there's no better feeling of staying in net and looking up in the stands or hearing your kids yell, "Go Daddy." That's like that's the best thing. That's the best thing I could ever ask for. And, I was probably close at playing. And after the accident, I've been telling my physiotherapists multiple times, I'm not going to let this individual tell me when I'm done playing. So my goal is to do at least one more season under my terms before I end up stop playing for good. I have an avenue of coaching. I love giving back to the game of coaching, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got the personality to coach. So I'm still trending in that direction. But yeah, playing, I'm working at it. I want to do it so bad, because this was the first summer that I haven't played, and it was hard. It was hard. As much as I love coaching minor lacrosse, this past summer not playing was hard. It was tough.
Definitely. Now, we've talked about expansion, and we have a whole thing of players, and they're ready to be. Is the goalie pool as strong as the player pool? Somehow I don't think it is.
I would say, to be honest, it depends on where you're looking, right? At the end of the day, you got to look at what levels we're at here. I think, to be honest, there's good goalies that are on rosters that should be getting floor time, in my opinion, and that's where we kind of don't see this. And this is my opinion about the NLL. We don't see that transition. Hockey's you see is starting to transition to that, where goalies, you have two predominant goalies that are getting ice time, for instance, in the NHL. The NLL is still with the shortened amount of games. You're putting your best guy in every single day, day in, day out. Maybe the odd back to back, you're giving the second guy an opportunity to play. But I feel like there's good goalies that aren't getting their opportunities that need to, because we have goalies that are probably getting towards the end of their careers. Goalies are getting older and stuff like that. A lot of guys are going to get thrown into some awkward positions where they're thrown into the wolves, right? You're basically going in there and you haven't maybe developed at that point. I think that's why that ALL is so important for guys that aren't getting those reps. You're getting game time at that level, and you're getting game time at that skill level, in my opinion, to
Right.
get you to that next level. So I feel like there's definitely some goalies that need to probably get to opportunities where they're actually hitting the floor a little bit more.
Right. Now, we just got our schedules out for all these teams, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But the big elephant in the room, of course, is the CBA. Do you see us having a season?
It's tough for me to answer because I'm out of the loop on that. I want to remain positive with both the players and the NLL that they're going to reach an agreement. I want to be positive. Not playing at that level. I watched a lot of lacrosse, and not playing at all, I watched a lot of lacrosse. I still love watching lacrosse on TV. I think the NLL is doing a really good job of trying to put that on TV the best it possibly can. And I went to a couple games this year, which is kind of unlike me, because after being out of it, it's hard to go in and watch one. But I'm starting to enjoy watching the game a lot more now. And I feel like you got to. I think it's not good for the league that we don't have a season. I think that really hurts the league, and I'm going to remain optimistic that they can find a solution. That way we can get the product on the floor.
Right, especially with the Olympics coming up in a couple of years. We don't want that to be what the world sees, is that we can't get our own house in order. What's your thoughts on sixes, especially as a goalie?
I have, so my oldest son is doing the sixes. Actually, I was just there this morning watching him. I have very mixed feelings on it, especially at the minor level. It's a little bit more different than the higher up levels. I think for me, I'm not a fan. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a fan, especially as a goalie. I'm not a fan, And the other avenue of it is, to me, I don't see a strategy in it. It's as many goals as you can possibly put at the net, many shots as you possibly can put, but it's a simple game. So if you have somebody that doesn't understand the game of lacrosse, doesn't know the rules, all of it's a simple thing to pick up and say, yep, they got to pick up the ball, run as fast as they possibly can to shoot the ball as many times as possibly at the net. Simple thing for somebody to understand. I don't think there's too much of a strategy for it. And that's what I kind of don't like the game. Like, I like field lacrosse. There's so much strategy, the dodging properly, the setup positions, the pick, that's like the sneaky picks and the transitioning. You see so much of that in the game of field lacrosse. And that's kind of all washed because it's so much transition back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Right. We had I had Bob DeMarco on the other show, and he was discussing why with sixes, and we found out that the Olympic Committee only allows 10,000 athletes altogether in the entire games. So if we were going to hope to get a sport in there, we couldn't bring a field team of 24 guys, coaches, trainers, and everything else, and hope to have more than 2 teams. So we had to tailor it down, hence rugby sevens, lacrosse sixes. So you only need about a dozen players, coaches and whatever, and you could bring 6 or 7 teams, at least have it competitive. So it was interesting. I had no idea about all of that stuff until we talked to Bob about that. So it made a little more sense in kind of mixing the two. And as well as box, there's a lot of countries there like Africa that don't have hockey arenas ready and floors ready to do this. So again, it had to be on a field. So those were the reasons behind that I found out. But yeah, it's still an interesting thing when I watch the PLL do it. It can't be good for a goalie's psyche when the games are 37-32.
No. I think as a goalie, you want to see the ball go in less. And I think sixes, you see it more and you're like, you got to have confidence in your abilities a little bit more. And you got to have the goldfish mentality. Whatever happened, next play. So,
Well, I was also thinking about, the 6x6 net would be, why don't we make it a 4x4 net like box to make it a little bit more difficult? But, Bob Terring, NCAA, coach and Hall of Famer, he brought up the point, well, we're going to get the goalies killed if they don't have equipment. You have that kind of shooting and that kind of pinpoint accuracy, and they're going for that little spot, and you're standing in the middle of it. Well, you're going to get peppered, literally from start to finish. So that might as that damn will kill you. So maybe we'll keep it 6x6 and we'll just go with reflexes.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of lacrosse, what keeps you grounded?
Being a dad. I mean, it's not really grounded. I say I'm anything but grounded because I'm always on the go. I mean, I got 4 kids. I got 4 kids at home, so no, I'm a busy guy. But like I said before, I love being a dad. I love it, and I get to. What's one thing about since the accident and not playing, I've been at home more, and my fiance and I just welcomed she's gonna be 6 months this week, which is crazy. A newborn daughter. So I'm busy being a dad, and then this past summer I got to coach U11 too again with Mike Poulin, so that was a lot of fun. And then now I'm just starting to do some goalie clinics with Cambridge Minor Lacrosse. So I love giving back to the game of lacrosse. I feel like, especially at our position as goalies, nobody does it anymore. Nobody does it that it's such a forgotten position. Basically at goalie and lacrosse, you're saying, go figure out. You have coaches that have no idea the position, trying to tell you what to do, and it could be anything far from the truth. I love giving back, especially at our position, because you gotta give back to the game, and this is the best position to try and give back for.
Right. Shawn, you have any questions for Craig?
Yeah, I was maybe going back. You're talking about kind of going to that Rochester training camp, and you talked too about kind of that mentality of this is mine. I'm curious, what was kind of that difference between those first couple training camps with Toronto, and then going into that training camp in Rochester, and that difference between not making the roster and making the roster? Was there kind of a difference, or was it that mentality that was the difference?
I would say the mentality was definitely the difference. You have a fire after getting released, and it kind of just burns brighter after you go along. I think it was I was older. I was older after those. I'm going to say probably 3 or 4 years after my second training camp experience, where I actually got another one. So there was a little more of a older. I'm going to say wiser, but a little more experience under my belt, and I think the fire was even more brighter because it was like after those 2 early training camps I got into, there was such a dry period of me not even getting a sniff of the NLL, that there was so much of a drive that I can do this, and so much more confidence in myself I think that's why that changed a little bit more for myself.
I'm curious too. We did touch a little bit on this already, I think, but can you maybe talk a little bit about that talent level that's still kind of in the ALL? So it sounds like there's maybe a little bit underrated in how much talent is actually out there.
Yeah, well, like we were talking about, you got guys that are on the practice roster that are on NLL contracts technically that are getting their game experience in. Teams are doing a better job in the NLL, making sure those guys get those opportunities, like either altering their schedules so they can make their games for their respective ALL teams, or you have guys that have been in the ALL for years that are probably one injury or one absence away from making that jump. It's such a competitive league from top to bottom that it does a fantastic job at getting guys ready.
Great. Thanks, Craig.
Now,
you still work with the family business, don't you, on top of everything?
Yes, I do. I'm a fully licensed car mechanic. Yes, I do. I work with my 2 uncles. My uncles have been in business for 50 years. I'm the 3rd generation of mechanic at the shop. My 2 uncles now own the business. My grandfather retired years ago and turned it over to them. And then actually, unfortunately, my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago. So, but no, I've been with family business since I was 18 years old, and now transitioning to I'm kind of the guy at the shop. You bring your car in, I'm probably the guy working on it. But I've kind of picked up a knack on working on the old Volkswagens. So if you see an old Volkswagen van or a Volkswagen bus or even an old Beetle drive into the shop, that's probably one I'm going to be working on. Even gone to the avenue of getting a tattoo of an old Beetle from my grandfather with his name on it. And I love my old Volkswagens. We sponsor a Volkswagen show that's around the area every year, and I always make sure I go and pay my respects to that show because my grandfather's named after an award there. And I love working on cars, and I hate working on cars all at the same time, depending on what we're doing. But I've taken a really good approach at working on these older Volkswagens. I enjoy that the most.
Well, the word resilience certainly comes to mind when we're talking about you. You have been resilient through everything and perseverance. So the opening was dead on the money, I think. And I wish you the best. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the ALL season come December, that you start off again. I guess it's Osh weekend again.
Yes, sir. Yep, I'll be back with Oshwegan, coming back to playing. Eddie Renault is a really good friend of mine. I actually just saw him on the weekend. We spend a lot of time hanging out with one another now, and yeah, so I'm prepping. I'm doing the best I possibly can to make that opportunity happen. But yeah, no, I watch this show religiously. I tune in on Gary, whatever Gary's posting and sharing all the time. I love seeing Gary around the rink, so I know it's always going to be a good day when I see Gary. I make sure I shake his hand every time I see him. My parents even know when he's around. They make sure they go say hi to him. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I love talking about lacrosse, and I love everything you guys are doing here.
Thanks so much, Greg. We wish you all the best, and you'll keep me in touch with everything that's going on, yeah?
You got it every single time, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks,
Take
Greg.
care.
That was Craig Wende. What a great guy. I only wish the best for him in everything. He's just such a genuine person.
That's a great story. And resilience, like you said, Gary, doesn't even start,
Absolutely.
I don't think. Like
Absolutely.
everything that he's gone through. Yeah.
In everything, and always finds the positive way up. And to me, that's spectacular.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was only a couple of items that we have to talk about here. And of course, Laxney was on this past weekend, and we had Mike Cooper on last week. And well, we'll be having Mike Cooper back on because the Pats are back-to-back champions, and that's the third time Rochester's won it all together. And wow, what a tournament this was. This is it's funny enough, this is the only two blemishes that John Tavares.
Yeah, I was going to say, took JT again.
Beat JT in the finals. Isn't that something else? Eduardo's with us. Eduardo, thank you for being here. Appreciate your patronage. Thank you so much. But yeah, it was the semis were actually closer than the finals themselves, being that Seneca took them to the wire. It was a 1-goal victory, and same thing with the team that they beat in the finals, a 1-goal victory there, and both games were down literally to the wire. I love watching games from Utica. I love being at. I think that's one of the greatest places that they had built, whether it's hockey or lacrosse, or even from what I've seen there, indoor soccer now in there. But the Nexus University is just spectacular, and it's easy to get to all of the rinks. There's 3 floors in there, plus the big auditorium, which is attached to the building where they have all the big events. But they had a great crowd as well. So Stamper did a fantastic job on all the calls, even with some of the technical glitches that happened. But just absolutely phenomenal. I've really been enjoying watching some of the things on Instagram on the Laxney page. Is Stamper interviewing some of the people around there, and for a change, it's not just the well-known guys, not the Chase Frasers, guys like that. It's some of the other teams and some of the lesser-known guys, and it's just been really, really interesting to listen to and see him delve into some of their quick stories, which has been fantastic. But once again, big shout out to Scott Neese for doing another bang-up job with the Laxney tournament. It's just spectacular from top to bottom, front to back. And the women went today. I still have to double check to see who want to be in your winners, as well as they had an under 18. So lots of lacrosse throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
Jumping into CUFLA, we have our weekly rankings, and sitting at the top is McGill at 3-1, up 3 spots. Trent also down a spot, but sitting at 3-1. Nipissing is joined in there with a 1-0 record. University of Guelph at 2-1. Bishops at 2-1, both up a couple of spots. University of Toronto moved up 5 spots and are sitting at 2-0. The Western Mustangs went down 5 spots and are at 1-2. This is not a spot that they're used to. They're usually up in the top there, so they're having a little bit of growing pain here at the start of the season. Brock at 1-1, Carleton at 1-2. University of Ottawa, the GGs are sitting at 1-2 as well. Queens 0-3. We know the Kiernans will get them on track sooner rather than later. So Laurier at 1-1, didn't move. McMaster at 0-1, and Laurentian at 0-2, and Stalwart. They're going to be moving up. I feel it. Sure, I feel it. We mentioned with Craig that the NLL schedules have come out. Now, I've looked at a number of these schedules, and there's some head scratchers in there. Again, the weird bye weeks all over the place. We're not in a 22-game season. We should be condensing to work that way. I tend to wonder, do we need to start in the last week of November? What do you think, Shawn? With Christmas season coming up, is that something that affects attendance enough that it's maybe the league needs to move it back until they move out to bigger schedules with more teams?
No, I wouldn't mind seeing it because like you mentioned, with all like just as an example, like I mentioned off air here, week 2 you have only 2 games.
Yeah.
So you got a ton of teams on bye week. Why can't we spread that out? That just doesn't make much sense to me. So if we're having these many bye weeks, I mean, there's got to be ways then to make, room to get rid of some of those back-to-backs as well. So I wouldn't mind seeing it move personally.
Right. Now, I don't have Pat here tonight, but I would have brought this one up as a conspiracy theory. When the team that is now the Oshawa Firewolves were the Philadelphia Wings about 4 moves ago, they had an awful lot of weird scheduling from Comcast over at the Wells Fargo or whatever they're calling it this week. They would have a Friday morning game. They would have a number of Sunday games. They'd have Saturday afternoon games, all kinds of weird things that would be different from all the other schedules. This year, I'm seeing a bunch of Sunday games again, Sunday afternoon games. Do you think that this works for the area because of Flyers game Saturday night, or is it Comcast going, you don't have plans in our new arena, so why don't we just start moving that outward now?
Could be a little from column A and a little from column B, really. Yeah, a little from column A, and the fact that it's the Flyers, so they're going to get first priority, obviously, over the Wings. So if you're going on a Saturday, it's likely going to have to be earlier in the day, if not at all. And then your next bet is Sunday. I mean, Sunday is probably not as bad as, like we talked about, like those Friday afternoons or a Monday evening. At least it's still in the weekend somewhat. And yeah, a little bit of, exactly that. The Wings have very little pull within that arena, and Comcast is like, meh, they can kind of take a back seat to everyone else.
Yeah, I worry a little bit about that. The other one that kind of got me a little bit intrigued was the Oshawa schedule. I looked at it, and they have a number of back-to-backs, week-to-week home and homes. But they have a stretch there where I think it's 3 consecutive weeks, if we looked at it right, where they're playing Western teams in Western cities. That's a lot of travel. To be putting that basically 3 consecutive weeks that you're flying to Calgary, you're flying to Saskatchewan, you're flying to Las Vegas, that's tough.
Yeah, almost that's where we're back-to-back was working because like I was looking at the Rush schedule, they have 3 road games in a row out east, but 2 of those are back-to-backs, and it's actually Buffalo and Rochester. So really, they could just stay out there for those 2 games. So at least you can work a little bit of the travel around that. So it would probably actually work better if they had a back-to-back out west. They could maybe limit that travel a little bit instead of making it 3 consecutive weeks like that.
Right. Looking at the Rock thing now, they're back in Hamilton again, and they're all Saturday games. I think one Friday game in there, but that makes life easy to get to Rock games. And the selling point, of course, is Saturday night lacrosse, right?
Yeah.
They're back in San Diego this year, so maybe it's time to get my sunscreen out and time to get myself back out. It's been a couple of years since I've been out to San Diego amongst my pilgrimages. But I'm hoping against hope that our CBA, because we're coming to the end of September now. We're running out of time rapidly. These guys need to sit down. They need to figure it out, and they cannot lose a season, in my opinion.
That was kind of my thought with releasing this schedule is the fact that we still don't have a CBA. Where does this actual schedule sit? Or is there going to be changes if let's say we get a CBA done, but not in time to start the season? Are we going to see changes to the schedule? Or are we just going to knock off games as they can't be played because of a CBA? It leaves a lot of questions still up in the air.
Doesn't that throw a real wrench into things when you have your newest team playing your biggest rival now, having Oshawa and Toronto in Oshawa to kick off the season? And if you don't have a CBA and that's the first game that gets eliminated or moved down the road somewhere, doesn't that just defeat everything of the momentum that you're trying to kick?
Oh, 100%. I even look again at the rush schedule into week 2. They start off against Calgary, another rival game, right? So let's say we miss the first 2 weeks. You're missing a whole bunch of rivalry games that, like you said, great momentum to start off the season that could just be thrown out the window.
Absolutely. So the league needs to get it done, and the players need to get it done. And I just don't see, we're talking about they want to slice of this and this. I don't think that there's that much to slice into. Not yet. Maybe down the road, maybe there should be a caveat that as the numbers become bigger, that they get a bigger slice of it. But for the time being, I don't see it. And, rumor is that they still have to get it together with the officials as well, because the referees are part of their collective bargaining agreement as well up. So there's a number of things that need to get done before this thing takes off. We have roughly 5 weeks before training camps technically open.
Yeah. And that's like maybe the frustrating thing as a fan is, are they close? Are they far apart? Neither side's going to do any negotiating out in public, so you're really sitting in the dark figuring out, okay, will they, won't they? How close are they? Are they far apart? Are they close? Could we potentially see the season? Could we be seeing some cancellations? We don't know where they're at right now, and they're not going to tell us because it doesn't make any sense to negotiate out in public.
Well, nobody negotiates in public, and it shouldn't be done that way. But I was led to believe that they had the best relationship, players and owners, that they've ever had. And it looks like we're going to have something that's from 15 years ago. And this is the wrong time to have it. Like we were saying when Craig was on, we're talking about, the last thing we want is the world to see a stoppage, because we're trying to put our best foot forward heading into the Olympics, full of momentum. If Box wants to be included in this talk, they better find a way to get their house in order, because otherwise you're going to leave it to the Rabels and the PLL. And the only history of lacrosse you're going to hear is from the time that the PLL was invented. And that's it.
Yeah,
it's going to be nothing about Box in there whatsoever, just like listening to one of their broadcasts. Nothing about Box. There has to be both sides in there if we're going to get a fair shake, Box and field, to be working with the Sixes program.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what we said before, even if we could just get something, 1 or 2 year deal, just to even buy some more time.
Yeah, I would. That's my favorite one right now. If they can't do it, let's just find a way to extend what we've got for the season, but be able to have talks throughout the season, because they tend not to do anything until it's almost too late.
Yeah.
Well, we can't have that. That just doesn't work, as we're witnessing now. If they're not close, they need to find a way to get closer. And the only way to do that is dialogue and give and take. Nobody can have their heels dug in. We're not that big a league. There's not that much money to have your heels dug in. It's not the NHL. It's not the NBA. And if you want to be the fourth big sport, you better find a way to get this worked out and quickly. We're coming off probably the best Man Cup I've seen in years. We're coming off a great summer season, both WA, MSL, OLA, OSL, all these things, junior with the Minto and Coquitlam winning back-to-backs. And we're on so much momentum that everybody is so looking forward to the season starting. And, let alone the President's Cup that just came and went as well. And you're going to come to a screeching halt over numbers. And that just can't be. It can't be at this point, because that'll stop all the work that you've done. And do you think TSN and ESPN are going to be waiting around with a slot for you? No. Well, we'll just keep us. Let me just put a part in there. And when you are ready, we'll just slot you back in. No, you're going to have to go and start all over again and build your credibility up, because if you screwed them once, what's to say you're not going to screw them again? So
anyway, you just get that little.
I
just get that little feeling too that you talked about the Olympics in sixes, and if this kind of goes by the wayside, Rebels and the PLL are going to put their foot down. I think just Olympics aside, they want to be the only game in town. I think it's quite obvious, and I would not be surprised if they get cutthroat. I mean, this could be do or die. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but if you lose a season, I'm not going to say it's going to be killer, but it's not going to be good.
Well, through all the stupidity over the years, they've never lost a season, I don't think. But they've been close. They've been very, very close.
Yeah, a year or two ago, they had at least modify their schedule. I remember that.
Yeah, they missed a couple of games of it, and they were talking about moving. And I really don't want to see that either, because it was nip and tuck also, and really, really stupid. And we need to, again. The biggest problem in lacrosse is we can't get out of our own way. Every time we make huge steps and huge gains, we do something silly that put us back to where we were or further back. And we can't have that. Not now. There's too many things at stake to become, again, that fourth sport. And, we don't have to sell the game. The game itself sells itself. I have yet to bring someone to a game who wants their time back. Most of the time, they want to find ways to get more tickets and more ways and how to get there and where they're playing and who's doing what. Well, we have that kind of momentum already. Everybody has to realize that we're not too big for the sport. The sport needs to grow and grow into the Olympics, where we can have that explosion that we've been so talking about for so long.
No, 100%. And it's even further than that, just the strides that this sport has made to move forward. Olympics, again, a great, great example. Do we want to take 5 steps forwards and then 2 steps back and just continually do that?
Or in this case, are we taking 2 steps forward and 5 back?
Yeah.
Keep in mind also, we just had probably the best PLL final I've seen since its induction. And we've had some great ones. But just the parity of the teams and watching the way this thing went and looking at everything that we've accomplished. And we're going to wait till the PLL tournament in February before we get to see lacrosse again? I don't think so.
Again, going back to, it's the PLL putting their foot down, right? If PLL gets all the glory and TV time versus the NLL, where does that leave box versus field?
Right. So let's hope that we have news for you come next week's show. A reminder that we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, X, we're on Instagram, we're on Thread, we're on YouTube. And if you want to catch a lot of retro games of some of the guys from yesteryear who you're seeing behind the benches, go onto our YouTube page at All Across All the Time. There is about 40 games from way back, I believe it goes all the way back to 87. Those retro games all the way up to about 2010. So if you want to see some of your favorites still playing, and a whole different slew of things that would be a 5-game suspension now, that is maybe a change of possession back then. So it's the Wild West. So there's some awesome games in there. It was great talking with Marty O'Neill the other week there and talking about some of those games as well. Over the next coming weeks, we're going to have some of our favorites back on the show. Rich Kilgore, Brad McCulley, Matt Spanger, hopefully. And we're going to talk about the upcoming season and some of the things that went on through the summer and things like that. So stick with us, where all your news is up to date, up to the minute. We are all on our phones with our sources, getting everything to you as accurate and as quickly as we can. We are your Costco of Lacrosse. We are your one-stop shop, always with our fingers on the pulse of the situation. This is where you want to get your information. It brings us to last word, Shawn. I would give Mike the last word, but Mike, feel better.
Yeah.
Hope you're starting to feel a little bit better. Last words to you, Shawn.
No, for sure. First, thanks to Craig for coming on. And sounds like he has had a long road to recovery and still has a bit of recovery to do. So really wish him, a speedy recovery in that. And knowing his story and everything that he's gone through, I have no doubt he'll be back. He's gone through a lot and he's been through a lot and he just always bounces back. So what a story he is in general and all that he's gone through. And you know what, as we just discussed, let's just get CBA going. You know what, there's this excitement now that we have the schedule out. Let's just get to it so we can really get onto that schedule and, get to some lacrosse.
Absolutely. I too want to thank Greg for coming on the show. I say we're old time friends. It's with his family as well. And I love seeing him getting things done positive. He's the most positive guy I know. And I wish only success for him, only the best for him. And I can't wait to see him back on the floor. I will travel, make sure that I'm at whatever game, most likely the ILA for his first game back with the Arena Lacrosse League. But just such a genuine guy. And I brought up the idea of the draft, and he didn't get drafted that first year because he had put out something to the a couple of years ago when just before the NLL draft, wishing best of luck to all the draftees. And also putting a thing in there that if you don't get drafted, that is not the end of the road. And he is a prime example of what hard work, perseverance, and a never quit attitude will get you. We're always told when we're young, work hard and good things will come. Well, he is a testament to working hard and accomplishing goals by hard work. And again, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I can't wait to see him back on the floor. But I know that whoever he's coaching is also going to be the recipient of some great coaching with a really personable person and passionate of the sport and of his players. So I think that down the road, coaching might be in his forte as well. Maybe even in the Arena Lacrosse League, because I think he knows that league inside and out. And I think with Paul St. John at the helm, it will be a real good fit. Anyways, that'll do us for this week. Mike will be with us again next week. Fingers crossed. And, we'll be talking a little bit more about rosters and things like that. And hopefully we have news. Hopefully we have CBA news. Hopefully enough is enough and we can get on with things. But until then, for Shawn Slaght over in Moose Jaw, I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. Wishing you the best of weeks. As always, it is our privilege to give you the show and to give you everything that we can during the week. Until next week, remember, keep your sticks high, keep your spirits higher. And until we meet again at 8 o'clock next Sunday Eastern, have a great week, everybody.